year is 2021, and Libsyn launches the latest podcast on the Borgcast Galactica feed. In a freak mishap, Borgcast Galactica and its hosts, Peter and Anne-Marie, are blown out of their trajectory to re-emerge as Borg Rogers in the 25th century.
Hello friend, and welcome to Borg Rogers 1.11 with Peter and Anne-Marie.
Hello!
And tonight we're covering the terrifying, though not necessarily for the right reasons, Space Vampire! I wonder what this episode's about.
According to Dr. Theophilus' computer scan, the word Vorbon originated on a planet in the Romaine star system, and it refers to...
Go ahead and spit it out, Doc. I asked for it, remember?
Yes, well, it refers to a half-dead creature who drains the living soul from its victims.
Space-age vampire.
It's only a myth, you know.
Don't I wish?
Co-written by Kathleen Barnes, her only contribution to the series. She also wrote an episode of Wonder Woman and the cartoon Tarzan, which I remember watching back in the day.
I don't.
Yeah, I was just a fan of the monkey, basically.
Right.
I suspect it probably hasn't aged very well.
This is my domain, and I protect those who come here. For I am Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle.
Also, the Godzilla cartoon with Godzuki.
Up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathing fire, his head in the sky. Godzilla, 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 and Godzuki.
Na 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 na.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. She co-wrote this with David Wise, who, as well as writing those same shows, also wrote an episode of the original series, some He-Man episodes.
Defenders of the Earth. Defenders.
A lot of the 1980s Transformers episodes, Batman the Animated Series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to name just some of the kiddie fare that he's been contributing to over the years.
Wow, all the good stuff.
Yeah, and it's directed by Larry Stewart, who will go on to direct 3 more Bucky-sodes, as everybody's calling them.
Not?
Yes.
Bucky's... No.
Bucky-sode, yeah.
No. Stop that now. That ends here.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
So you have Buck and Wilma in a spaceship.
Yes, it was originally Ardala's little craft.
Okay.
I guess it must be like a common shuttle design at this point. At one point, then, they switched to using the space sled model because lazy, cheap effects save money. And, yes, it has a secret little feature which they'd originally planned to use in the pilot but didn't, but get to use in this one, more of which later.
Yes. And it has shit buttons that sort of wobble slightly and don't even light up properly and look really quite terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, as a prop, that is. I mean, the concept of just having some buttons and punching them, that's not an issue. It's just the way this is made is seriously cheap.
Yeah.
But makes reference to the way you fly. This is the same as the way you fly the shuttle.
Yes, it's exactly the same layout. I wonder why.
Yeah.
And why is Wilma wearing this midriff-bearing outfit while Mr. Civilian Buck Rogers is back in his Earth Defence Force uniform?
I've no idea. It makes no fucking sense. And they're taking Tweaky to get his disc cleaned
Or something.
at the CompuFactory.
CompuFactory, yeah.
Because so that he won't blow a tube boogieing with Tina. Oh,
Yeah, I
fuck
could have done
off.
without them mentioning her, yeah.
Oh. No, and don't talk about blowing a tube. Really? No. Anyway, they arrive and he can't get down the steps and has to be carried.
Yeah, that's a bit sad, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit of a limitation. And we know that Felix Silla probably couldn't do
I don't
that
think he would have been
in
able
real
to
life.
see.
Yeah,
So he was capable of the physical movements of going down the steps, but wouldn't have been able to see where to put his feet.
But the thing is, you don't draw attention to it. It's like that moment in Destiny of the Daleks when the Doctor gyps the Daleks about not being able to follow him up a rope. Because the joke's on you, Doctor, they can actually fly, as we now know. But, just don't point out the budgetary restrictions in your show, basically.
No.
On the other side, I think Theta Station is a nice design.
It's sort of octopusy, isn't it?
Yes. Did it look at all familiar?
No.
Okay, so each of those arms were using the same mould that they produced the Draconia with. So you remember the Draconia has the bridge bit is on one of
Like
those
an
arms,
arm thing.
basically.
Oh, okay,
yes.
yeah.
And then they just added the circular bit to each one.
Fair enough.
But hey, it looks good.
It's okay. I'm not a fan of the... I think for me, the way a space station is designed should make some kind of sense.
It should look like a mushroom.
Well,
So unreadable.
not necessarily look like a mushroom, but that one I can understand why it's, you can easily get to everywhere from within it. Does that make sense? It's not, so aesthetically it might be done that way, that's absolutely fine, but you can easily get to everywhere within it. But if you're on one of the ends of that space station, it's not so easy to get to the other end. And just for me, that doesn't seem logical in terms of how it would be used to design it that way.
All right.
I like my design to make sense from the point of view of the people who are supposed to be using it.
Aha.
And that applies to spaceships as well, which is why I don't like is it the Cerritos, where you're looking at it going, how are they getting from, if they have to do work from one bit to another?
They go in the turbo lifts.
Yeah.
They really need to show that at some point.
Yeah. But, what was it Discovery with the unending weird shit turbo lift scene with the fights, and it was all sort of some kind of vague vacuum, and you're like, that's taking up masses of space, what are you on? Yeah, that's my thing, is that it needs to make sense from the point of view of the people who are inhabiting it. It doesn't have to necessarily look pretty, but there's got to be a logic, and I fail to see the logic of this design.
Aha, right.
They've been introduced to the guy who's not quite Riker. What's his name?
Commander Royko,
Royko.
who's played by Christopher Stone, who was Major Stockwell in Galactica 1980's pilot. And his biggest role is probably in The Howling,
Okay.
where he gets turned into a wolf. Speaking of which, he was in Airwolf, The A-Team, Wonder Woman, and a bunch of other TV. And he has quite the tash.
Yes. So he says he's going to repair Tweaky, and then Tweaky says, "Be cool, Big Daddy." It's like, oh, fuck off. Then you get to see a flying crate, and it really does look like a crate. I'm guessing it's a freighter.
I have a feeling that might have been the Colonial Removals model from original Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
It certainly looks familiar anyway.
And it's on a collision course, but there's no response. And the model work is terrible in terms of the crash. It's really,
the collision is poop.
really, really bad.
And the craft is called the Demeter. Why is it called the Demeter? Because that's the name of the ship that brings Dracula to Whitby in Bram Stoker's novel.
Oh, okay.
They're trying really hard here, aren't they?
Yes. Okay. Anyway, Royko, or whatever his name was, says, because of they've got special stuff in place, with self-repairing hull, so they're not going to lose atmosphere into space, but they can't help the atmosphere from the ship that just crashed mixing with theirs, so they're going to have to quarantine, just in case, which is logical, makes sense. And then Buck suggests they go and investigate the ship, and Buck and Wilma are both like, look, there's no risk here because we've already been exposed to the air. You said it's already mixing with the air in the station, so we may as well, which is like fair enough. So Buck has to put on a massive black belt for reasons that are never explained.
Yeah.
Wilma doesn't.
No.
Nobody else does. Just him. So I'm just kind of wondering, was that their way of covering up the fact that he'd ripped his trousers or something?
I don't know.
Just doesn't make any sense. And I wouldn't mind if he then took something from it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to serve any purpose.
No.
And yeah, as you say, Wilma doesn't get one. So
No. Meanwhile, a red blob is watching,
yes.
and
Weird.
Wilma starts feeling cold, and then she follows them in. The sick bay, they find a body, and then another one, and then they find the sick bay full of them. And it's like, we've got to, this is really serious now. We can't have anyone coming anywhere near us.
I thought the shots in the ship were nicely done with dark lighting.
Yes, and the obligatory wires pulled out.
Yes. Bits of spunkled trumpet everywhere.
Yeah, and fritzing controls.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, they could have made it overly bright for no reason, because a lot of TV did around this era, but it's properly dark and shining torches and stuff to make stuff visible. They get the log from the last person alive, and they're watching it back, and there's a reference to Deneb 5 and the Barbarite.
Yep. So Planet of the Amazon Women gets another mention, which is nice.
Yep. And there's a drone that's been deactivated. And she starts off with 3 crew dead and then more and more, and they end up surmising that because it's come from adenom 5. It might have a virus called EL7. And then I kind of like the way that the Doctor at this point is like, yes, there's stuff unknown, but you've got a highly transmissible virus with deadly consequences, and it might be it. So let's behave as though it is. Let's start inoculating people, quarantine ourselves. Let's assume that that's what we've got, because it would be stupid to say, oh, let's hope it's not, and then have it run rampant. Do you know what I mean? So I think that bit's logical. And then Buck notices that he's holding something back, and
Dr. Ekbar.
yes, which I wrote down as Akbar.
Yeah, no, it's not Admiral Akbar, it's Doc Ekbar.
Oh, okay. He's holding something back, and he's like, they're not dead, but they're not alive either.
Isn't that kind of the definition of being dead? I can't help feeling, but never mind.
Well, they're in cellular something or other. I think, I don't know. It depends it depends how you define dead. So I guess our equivalent might be something like, say, comatose or in suspended animation.
Well, that's not dead then, is it?
No, but also suspended animation in particular isn't alive either, is
It is, but it's just suspended. So you're not dead, but you are. So therefore, you are alive. I mean, it's a a 1-0 thing here. You one or the other.
I don't know. I do know that there was. I don't know whether it's still the case, but it used to be the case that police officers weren't allowed to say that someone was dead, because only somebody medically trained could pronounce someone dead. So the police officer had to use the phrase apparently lifeless, which is fine in a lot of circumstances, because maybe they could be resuscitated or whatever.
Yeah, if they're missing a head or something.
Yes, it's a bit, yeah, they haven't got a head, they're dead, aren't they, really? Let's be honest.
Anyway, let's not worry about this, because I'm sure the show doesn't.
No. And then you have sort of Wilma with the whole, she's sitting at a table, and she's like, oh, it's after me, and stay away, and who are you? And then all Buck's done is gone up to get a drink and comes back, you're all right. But I like the fact that he takes her seriously. Mm-hmm. That he says, no, it's too soon for this virus to have worked. I think it's more than that. And you are being rational. And I like the fact he doesn't dismiss her.
Yeah, that's good. What's not so good is that almost immediately comes out with, it's space vampires.
Yeah.
It's like, what? How could you possibly know that at this point? Yet again, he has read the script.
Well, the only thing I would say is that were he not in the future, it's the sort of thing that would naturally come up in conversation. If you've seen 2 marks on someone and they're not alive and they're not dead and they're looking a bit peaky, that was me in a conversation with someone, but I would say it as a joke though. I'd be like, oh, it's like a vampire, isn't it?
Yes, you wouldn't say, I think it's a space vampire.
But I can understand. So whereas the last time there was no reason for him to make that really weird shit assumption about somehow a split personality manifesting itself as real, because like, what? This one, I can understand why he says it and why he's using the term vampire as his frame of reference. But what makes less sense is why he, who had to be told what EL7 was, is so certain it's not that. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So his certainty on that it's not EL7, it can't possibly be, even though I haven't actually heard of this disease or researched it. Do you see what I mean? That's more where my issue is. I don't have an issue with the fact he's mentioning a vampire, because you or I would in a similar circumstance. It's the fact that he's so dismissive of everybody else's opinion when actually they know more. I mean, it turns out he's right, because Buck.
Yeah.
But do you see, I think I like the Doctor's approach more, which is that we've got to work on the basis that it is, because it's really transmissible and that is what we've got. We need to make sure we contain it, but I'm keeping my other options open. Whereas Buck has closed his mind to the idea that it could be a virus that he hasn't heard of because he's from a different time. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, with Colin...
Our B-plot.
Yes, Colin and the plant.
Yes.
Which apparently hates him.
Yeah, because he's killed it. So yes, he's going to hate him. Has he shifted to a fancy red top?
I'm not sure
we've seen
red.
this before.
Idea he was
Was his white top washed with something pink, maybe? Or something, I don't know. But
well, he's worn blue before.
He has worn blue, you're right. But apparently he gets a pink number as well. A red number, obviously.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. But maybe it's like the day of the week. Like you them socks that are different colours.
It must be a Wednesday. He was wearing red.
Yes. So he says, it hates him. He's talked to it, all the rest of it. And then Buck and Wilma is like coming on. It's like a message coming through. And Theo's like, do you want to hide the plant? He's like, yes.
I love the panic.
Yes. And it's Buck asking for information about Helson, who is the passenger.
Oh, yes, Helson. What does that sound like?
Van Helsing?
Exactly. But he's come from New London, so it's nice to know that there's still a London around in the future.
Well, except New York's named after York and isn't anywhere near New York, so...
Yeah, I think given the fact that a lot of Dracula's set in this country, I suspect that they're talking about...
What they really should have done, though, really, is New Whitby.
That would have been I would say a tad on their nose. So much of this is so on the nose.
Yeah,
it's
I was
not
going to
true.
say, it would fit, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's asking for information on Helsing, then after he's gone, you've got Hugh in the plant again.
Perhaps you'd consider having an agro drone come and look at your rather depressed piece of flora?
Dr. Theophilus, I'm surprised at you. Buck left that plant in my care. Bringing in an agro drone would be a blatant admission that I can't cope with Buck's 20th century naturalism.
Yes, sir. When would you like the drone to look at it?
Immediately.
Which I like. And then you have the vampire then decides that he's going to go for the doctor.
So, yes, we get our first look at the title character.
Yeah.
Those eyebrows. Wow. Eyebrow, I should say, of course.
Your monobrow.
Yeah.
Was it Daria on Facebook that said this is what happens if you just stick every Star Trek monster prop on one person?
Basically, because the ears are weird as well.
Weird, yes.
He's played by Nicholas Horman, who's still acting, so this didn't kill his career.
Well, he was unrecognisable.
The voice is good, though. I quite like the way they've treated his voice.
Yeah. The ears are particularly weird.
Yeah, it's just all so weird.
Yes. Very strange. But he goes to the doctor, but via one of the dead people who's comes up from behind and grabs him, which I like. And then you get a couple of scenes where it seems to be coming for Wilma, but then doesn't, and goes away for no adequately explained reason and just disappears under the door. And then Tweaky and Buck are viewing the footage from the drone thing that was Helson's. And Buck's about to turn it off because it looks like he's hallucinating, saying, "Oh, you again, I'm going to get you," or whatever. And then a shot fired. And Buck's like, hang on, he didn't hallucinate that. And then there's this hysterical fight, in inverted commas, where this guy just picks himself up and throws himself around. It's just...
Yeah, the stunt guy just... Yeah. It's all a bit Monty Python, isn't it?
Very.
Yeah.
Very. But I liked it. I thought it was fun. And he was like, no, he's not hallucinating that.
Buck searches for what Helsing was using to ward the vampire off with. Cue some more spooky music. And he finds a shiny medallion. Yes, because it's Buck. It's got to be a medallion, isn't it? Turns out to be an ancient power lock. But then he's attacked by Zombie Ekbar and the rest of the undead. The Vorvon goes to attack him, but Buck uses the medallion and then raises the alarm before passing out. The alarm is this massive, great big lever. It's funny. Anyway, he wakes up in the sick bay surrounded by the now motionless corpses, and of course Royko still doesn't believe him. Plus Helsing's drone has been conveniently destroyed. Oh dear. Hewitt offers to dispatch a fighter squadron, but Buck points out it won't arrive in time. The creature then apparently comes from the Romaine system. That'll be Romania then, won't it?
Yeah, it was just, yeah.
The doc prescribes a power overload, which apparently is the equivalent of daylight for a Dracula. Okay. Buck then comes up with a plan that doesn't involve blowing up part of the station, which is a bonus. Invisible to everyone else, Vorvon turns up in the space bar, calling Wilma. "You're the one that I want."
You're the one that I want. Honey, the one that I want.
Yes, we have a tune.
Yes.
She runs for it, but he pursues her to Buck's room. There's a cool shot where she shoots him, but he plucks the laser beam out of the air. Again, any scares are rather undermined by how gormless this vampire looks. Erin Grey earns her keep, though, by managing to look scared of him. She even manages a tear when he's feeding on her. Although it turns out the marks on the neck aren't from teeth, but from Vorvon's thumb and forefinger, which is different, so she gets fingered by him rather than eaten.
Fingered to death.
Yes, fingered to death. Buck to the rescue, needless to say, but Royko turns up and arrests him. Wilma explains, but she isn't believed either. Vorvan reappears in Wilma's quarters and she tries to strike a deal with him to leave the others alone in returning for offering herself, and then he gives her a good fingering. She turns up in the cells all huskied up.
Oh, I do.
That's sounding all husky rather than covered in sledge dogs, obviously.
Yes. I like the way that they've treated her voice a bit.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
And also, they don't appear to have done the stupid thing of giving her fangs. Instead, they just make her open her mouth a lot and emphasise shots on her incisor teeth.
Yes.
Which is an interesting take, I think.
It is, yes. And Gray is acting her socks off here.
Yeah.
I'll give her a due.
Yeah.
Buck zaps her with a power lock, and Royko turns up to get knocked out by her, which is nice. They pursue Vorvan and Wilma. Buck shoots, but this time the vampire just blasts the beam back at them. They do these effects so well when you compare it to how badly they do it on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
They never manage to get the beams in the right places, did they?
No.
Wilma and Vorvan leave in the shuttle, which Buck has booby-trapped, so he has to leap in a Thunderfighter to pursue them. Wilma finds out she can't fire on Buck, and the vampire has to take over the controls. They fly into the Stargate, and Vorvan is zapped as they come into close proximity to a sun. And this releases Wilma, who does a saucer step, effectively.
Love it.
As this is the cool feature they built in to use as Ardala's escape in the pilot, but they never used it. Turns out Doc Ekbar and the other zombies are now fully recovered now that the Dracula is dead. It is a kid's show, after all. And our comedy ending is Buck pointing out to Hewer that he's bought the wrong type of plant to replace the one he killed. Oh, Hewer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is far less camp. I mean, if the vampire effect was better, it would almost be competent. Reportedly, Gil was cheesed off that this episode focused so much on Erin's character rather than his. But he wants to see his dull character front and centre every week. And needless to say, it's Gray's favourite episode of the series.
Yeah.
But yes, it just feels a lot more sort of serious. It's like they're actually trying. It would be properly scary if they hadn't cocked up the vampire makeup.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is, sometimes you look at makeup and costume design from older telly and you think, yeah, on a smaller and poorer resolution screen, you might have got away with it. Not this. No, not with them ears and that monobrow.
I mean, they've kind of gone a bit Nosferatu, but it's just so bad.
Yeah. Also, Nosferatu was, I don't know how old, but like really, really old, and that was better.
Yeah. Whereas if it wasn't for the monobrow, possibly it would have been at least slightly better.
Well, but the ears are just so odd.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah. I found it fun to watch.
Yeah, no, it's entertaining. It's good sci-fi action stuff.
But it's just, you can't... I think the problem is that it's almost good enough to be taken seriously, apart from the times when...
the vampires on
screen. It's all right.
And the humour stuff is a bit,
weird.
Broad comedy sort of... Possibly so the kids don't get too scared or something. I don't know, but a bit out of place.
Also, when he gave him the plant, wasn't it like, there's hardly anything organic anymore. Oh, it must be really expensive. So where is he getting the other
New
one?
plants from, yes. Well, who knows? The mysteries of Buck Rogers.
Yes. And we've heard from Jeff, who writes, "This was actually a pretty good episode, and not just in the goofy fun ways I'd normally judge Buck Rogers. There were moments that had some nice spooky atmosphere, and the plot held together fairly well. The model work with the freighter crashing into the space station was pretty good." I didn't think so.
No.
Maybe more ambitious than effective.
Yeah.
The escaping shuttle blasting out of Buck's ship was very neat and very Thunderbirds. Yeah, yes. You actually started singing the tune, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Because you get those close-ups with the bits moving, the moving parts. It's what makes it feel Thunderbirds.
There are even some fun nods to Bram Stoker, what with the freighter being named the Demeter and the vengeful Van Helsing and the planet Remain and Remain system. Well, lots. Dr. Hewer's subplot dealing with houseplants was very silly, but Tim O'Connor is so charming that it ended up being quite delightful.
It is, yes.
And that a plant was part of the raft of callbacks and references throughout the episode. I never expected this level of continuity in Buck Rogers. The biggest drawback of the episode was relegating Colonel Deering to a damsel in distress role, although evil vampire Wilma was a lot of fun. With the goofy voice effect, I half expected her to say, "There is no Wilma, only Zool."
Yeah.
The vampire itself was utterly ridiculous.
Bobbins, yes.
It looked like a Telosian with an unkempt unibrow. In any other show, that would be a drawback, but it feels fitting for this series. All in all, this episode was a blast, and I look forward to hearing your spectacular podcast. Thank you, sir.
We have heard from Doreen.
Hello, it's Doreen here. Thanks to Peter and Anne-Marie, I am able to feedback on Space Vampire, I think is the English name. Thankfully, there was an English audio track for it, so that's good. I find the vampire a bit shonky to begin with, and I've decided that it's a budget Ferengi from Star Trek. But it was quite good, really. The storyline for this was good. At first, I thought they had, like, vampire with a huge mouth because of the spread of the discoloration on the necks of the victims. But then it showed you him actually using his fingernails, which was a bit different. I thought at the beginning that as they had Wilma Deering all dressed up for the male gaze, that Buck might actually keep his zip up on his uniform, because it was right practically by his Adam's apple at the beginning. But no, it gradually got further and further down. Anyway, also, I liked how Twiki, I think is the name of the wee android robot thing, was defeated by stairs. And when, in the middle of the episode, when Buck told Twiki, the wee robot thing, take something to his quarters, I thought, oh well, I hope there's no stairs. So that was funny. It was really quite good. I wasn't enthralled by it at the beginning, but by the time it was ending, it's gotten a lot better. Also, I thought that we had a terrible situation of an actor not acting dead properly. When Wilma was a vampire or Vorgon or whatever it was, and had been into the cell and then hadn't managed her mission. When Buck and the other guy were like leaving the prison cell, there was a guy lying dead, but like it was as if Buck fell over him, and I thought, oh drat, what terrible dead acting. But then it turned out that he was an undead person as well, so I have to say that was quite a relief, really, that Borg Rogers isn't quite that shonky. So I really enjoyed it. Thanks for sending me the wherewithal to watch it, and thanks for the podcasts. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. You're thanking us now, but I'm pretty sure by the end of that DVD set you won't be.
I am very glad that it does have an English audio track.
Yes, I think it was Italian or something like that, because she mentioned that she had the first half of the first season, so I was looking on eBay to see if they did like a 2-part version, and the only one I could find was Italian, so I thought, oh, well, it's bound to have the English on it as well. So apparently so. Phew.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think budget Ferengi isn't a bad description, actually. And I hadn't noticed Buck's zip getting further and further down.
No, but it doesn't surprise me.
Oh. Yeah, I also thought that the guy wasn't very good at acting dead properly. And then it turns out that's because he's undead and he'd deliberately caught Buck's foot rather than Buck sort of vaguely tripping over it. And yes, it is nice to know that Buck Rogers isn't actually that shonky and that it was deliberate that way. What did Sampo and Yonna make of this?
Hello.
Hello.
We just watched Space Vampire.
Yeah, what happens in it?
Well,
yeah. But the first thing that I noticed, I asked about Wilma's costume and what was happened to her outfit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, one would think that was this a sort of, seems they were going on a holiday or something, but Buck was in uniform, so I don't know. They were taking Twiki to be repaired. I mean, I think he'd been boning that Tina so much that something broke. I mean, they mentioned, I mean, of all the things to remember from last episodes, I mean, that wasn't maybe one worth remembering. Booty.
Oh God.
Okay, but the episode. It was actually pretty boring, I think.
I think so too.
It maybe would have worked if it was sort of a thing that the viewer wouldn't be sure that are they hallucinating or is it actually a space vampire? Maybe then it would have worked, but the clues in the title, the name of the episode, in the spoiler thing at the beginning, it spelled it out. So, then the first 30 minutes we were just looking at Wilma looking distressed and waiting out. So where's the vampire?
And yes, Wilma was looking depressed and she didn't smile and she didn't laugh at Buck's jokes. And the man said... He actually said to Wilma, "You have not laughed at 3 of my jokes. You are doing bad for my confidence."
Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Well, he was only trying to cheer her up. That was a new joke.
Gonna cheer someone very well up.
Laugh, damn you.
like, no, that's not her purpose. And Tweaky actually said the same. What did he say?
This is like having a conversation with a vacuum cleaner or something like that. Which reminds me. So jumping ahead, when euphemism, when Wilma broke into the cell, so I drained the guards. It felt so good. Speaking of the vampire, so we did the Google image search, and the image promised us a lot funnier episode than this, but it was apart from the bollock head. I think the terrible unibrow. It was fine, but the one time he smiled, that was just. That's
I think they borrowed the vampire's look from Nosferatu.
Most it was a pretty.
The vampire also moved a little bit like Nosferatu, used his head. Hands like this. Well, you can't see, but my hands are like this.
Okay, but like I said, mostly the episode was just boring. Like for the first 30 minutes, not much happens except Buck sort of again looks at the bodies and something. Must be a vampire.
Yeah. The most cheerful moment of this episode is when I spotted the microphone in the left upper corner.
Yes, we actually rewound and checked that, yes, there was a microphone. And then the vampire or Bourbon, and the moment he actually does show up and starts doing things, then it's like 5 minutes and then he's defeated by the sun. Well, he's a vampire, so it makes sense, but
it's the conclusion that they used in Galactica as well.
Yeah, true. Drive them to the sun.
Bye.
True. Yes, the audio recorder from the freighter. Nice to see they still using analog tapes in the 25th century. They had to rewind it.
Yeah, it bothered me a bit because they were rewinding it. Didn't they need to know all of the information? They just...
Yeah, the short attention spans.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that I was looking for.
Kids of today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually liked the crash when the freighter crashed in the station. I think that actually looked almost a bit realistic until it stopped clearly with a freeze frame. Small detail that I liked. Anything else?
Well,
I expected some cheesy fun with a bollock-headed vampire, but I just got 30 minutes of Wilma looking bored.
And people complaining about her and me being pissed because that's not what she's paid for.
Yeah.
She is what is Wilma's occupation?
Captain. She does stuff.
Captainy stuff.
Exactly. We're just babbling on now. Let's just end it here, okay?
Let's.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, bollock head with a unibrow.
Yeah.
That's, not a bad way to describe it. And Wilma is not there to laugh at his jokes.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of, reminded me a bit of you in a way. Oh, you haven't laughed at my jokes. What am I doing wrong? And usually the answer from either me or the kids is, well, the jokes are bad.
Yeah, I do that ironically, not seriously though. Unlike Buck.
Yeah, and it is, in a way, it's a shame that they chose the title they did, because you could have played out, couldn't you? The sort of
you could have done, yes. That would have made it even more serious, and therefore not Borg Rogers at all.
I suppose.
But yes, the title is a massive giveaway. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the way she says, "Oh, I drained the guards. It felt so good." You're like, okay then. And we did not need a callback to Booty, did we? No. No, I mean, I like continuity, but some things are best forgotten.
Indeed. Let's just move on. Okay, we've heard from Drew and Tracy.
Hello, it's feedback for Space Vampire.
And what did we think of that one then?
Not a great lot, to be honest. Wasn't the best of episodes.
I said to you halfway through this that someone must have really been sniffing the good stuff when they wrote this episode, because it's absolute fucking nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit random.
Random?
Even more random than normal Buck Rogers.
I was just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
It was just crazy. Anyway, go on then, let's go through some points. So we had the Voron.
Yes.
That was the Nosferatu guy.
Didn't look great, did he?
Dear me, when we first saw him, I said to you, Jesus, he needs to go and have his threading done. Those eyebrows were just like crazy.
You didn't say that when we first saw him. The first thing when we saw him was we both really started laughing. We were laughing at his face. You can't be a scary monster if people are just laughing right at your face, can you?
But he was just,
Yep.
So when the ship crashed into the space station.
Yeah, some not so great effects.
We really don't need. Yeah, and it kind of took about an hour for it to kind of hit, and then everyone was kind of thrown off balance and we're acting all overreacting, and then they said, "Oh well, our air's mixed now, so we're all compromised, right?" But they still didn't kind of put on any breathing equipment, which
I know. Yeah, but they're saying that we've breathed it in, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't want to breathe in more.
Okay,
let's protect ourselves. But why did Wilma not get a utility belt when they were going in the ship?
She didn't have a utility belt, and when she was on board the ship, the other three men had the torches. How was she supposed to see?
Where's the equality in that?
Yeah.
Absolutely outrageous. So Dr. Ekbar, which we kept saying Akbar.
I thought they said Akbar. Buck
at some point does say Ekbar, so I'm going to kind of say it's not Star Wars related, but the EL7.
Yep.
What a fucking load of road.
I don't.
Shit, is that?
It's not great writing on this episode. It's got to be said.
Crazy. So, all right. So I'm going to stick my fingernails on your skin, and that's going to sap out your soul, and then it's going to leave 2 marks that look like a Nosferatu mask, and then I'm going to you're going to be brought back from the not dead, because you're not dead and you're not alive.
Yeah, when the doctor said, these people, they're not dead, but they're also not alive. It's so that means they're dead then, if you're not alive.
But like all cases, when people are pretending to be dead in programs, you can see the little pulse going in the neck. And
surely they're breathing, aren't they? We can see their chest move up and down. Yeah.
I was just singing so many stupid songs in my head through this, when it was zapping out Wilma's soul, and I was like, I know you got soul, and it was just I really kind of started tuning off halfway through.
Yeah, unfortunately it's random, and I just don't think the story was very good. It's just, I don't know. This wasn't super enjoyable. I was laughing at it because of the stupid look of the vampire and that, but it didn't really have anything much else to hold us, did it? It was all right,
and
but
why was Buck arrested?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's oh no, you got the disease, so we're going to arrest you. I don't know. Not the best one by far. This
really
one,
been enjoying Buck. I really
have.
I've
been quite getting.
But this one really fucking annoyed me for some reason, because I just feel like someone was sniffing the happy juice, and they just wrote this really random episode, and then the plant thing at the end. It's when Picard gets written into an episode, so Patrick Stewart gets his £25. it felt like
that's all Doctor Who was doing, was making
Doctor
a bit
Who
of
was
light
doing.
relief,
Yeah, it was
wasn't it?
just nuts. Anyway, I didn't enjoy it.
Nah, not the
First
best.
one I haven't liked.
Okie dokie.
So I'm annoyed.
Yep.
Anyway, shall we leave it there?
Okay.
Okie dokie. Leave it there, guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye. I thought it was Akbar initially,
Mhm.
but it is Ekbar, which is disappointing. And I hadn't noticed, so presumably the purpose of the fuck off massive belt was to give Buck a torch then?
Possibly.
Because Wilma didn't have one?
Yes.
So they should have given Wilma a fucking belt?
Exactly. It makes it even more heinous they didn't give her a belt.
Yeah.
Although, as Sprog 2 pointed out, she was already wearing a massive belt, so difficult for her to have worn it over it. But there we are.
But it was so big, the belt. It reminded me of like them wrestling belts and boxing belts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That are just like all for show and a bit weird.
Well, I thought it was some sort of support for Buck's tummy or something. But
a bit like Shatner's cummerbund.
Yes, possibly. Oh dear. The space vampire sucked all the fun out of Buck Rogers for them.
Yeah.
Let's find out what Perry thought.
Hello, orcs. Perry here to talk about Space Vampire. Yeah, a lot of imagination went into that title. It's a kind of vampire thing, but it lives in space. Yeah, and oh god, yeah, I see what you're meaning about the space vampire. That is definitely a thing that I have seen with my eyes. And yeah, an unconvincing vampire and a red blobby special effect. It's a shame because there were some things that really worked in this episode. I mean, I think the problem is the overall thing didn't, and I'll get to that in a bit. The things that worked for me though, let's start off positive. I thought, for all that Buck's spaceship apparently shapeshifted, I thought that the effects people were again trying quite hard. I don't know if we've seen that station before, but considering it's on a TV show budget from the 1980s, that collision was at least up to the level of Blake 7. And I thought that worked quite well. And I really liked the stuff with Dr. Hure and the rubber plant, not just because it was the continuity. I think Dr. Hure and Dr. Theopolis bouncing off each other a little. That worked really well. I'd have actually liked to see more of that. But I think my objection with the episode is, and it seems to be something that's almost happened in the last few, is Wilma getting more sidelined? Because in this episode, all she did was look cold and look scared at vampires. Whereas Buck did most of the work. And early in the series, she was, we joked it was Wilma Deering with occasional appearances by some bloke from the past. Where now it does seem to be very much the Buck Rogers show. Yes, his name is in the title, so I suppose that's part of it. But yeah, it's kind of weird that I wonder if old Gilbert actually complained and asked for his role to be beefed up. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, admittedly, it's quite laughable. For all that Erin Gray does well with what she's given, the point when she's vampired up, that was kind of a bit daft. And strangely enough, Buck didn't fall for it. I wonder why. Is it because her voice had gone like 4 octaves lower? Yeah, that was quite fun. The con with one of the spaceships, the controls in the separatable back half are the same as the ones in the front, complete down to set, so we don't have to build a new set for it. Still, we did get a separation, which is quite neat for that. And yeah, I think there needs to be more going on here, because most of it was just, I think they were trying to do an atmosphere of unease and sort of, this was going to be a scary episode. And it just didn't carry off. There were subplots like, Wilma's relationship with the station commander, that kind of went nowhere. His dislike of Buck talking about vampires, and indeed him arresting him, I was wondering if he was under the influence, but he's not. He was just being a bit of a dick. And I think that's kind of my objection, is I think there could have been more done, but I think someone was trying to make too much of a sense of atmosphere, and as a result, it's really just Buck occasionally fighting vampires and zombies, and a lot of nothing happening. So yeah, I found this one quite weak. I wonder if the series has kind of gone through a bit of a change mid-season and is getting a bit flabby, because this one was, I've got to admit, this one was not engaging me at all. So yeah, a bit sad considering it started off so well. And I mean, like I say, there is still the Hure and Theopolis stuff. I like that. I'd have seen more of that. That was quite fun. So all it remains me to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, and I'll hopefully feedback on the next one. But until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Yeah, Ryko is a dick.
Mm.
I mean, there's just no two ways about it, is there?
Yeah, but as he says, that doesn't really go anywhere in particular,
No.
and by the end he's won over just because Wilma attacks him, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because Wilma gets a lot more screen time in this episode than she has in others.
And Erin Gray gets to play more range,
Yes,
doesn't she?
and I think that those two things are probably the reason why it's her favourite episode of the series. But you're right, she doesn't get that much agency because she's the victim throughout. But in some ways, just getting that amount of screen time was quite a victory for back in those days, and Gilbert complained about that. So, twat that he was.
Yeah.
And yes, that station model is a new model. Not sure we'll ever see it again, but there you go. Nice effort. Except for the crash.
Yes.
Which, up to the level of Blake 7 really is such a low bar that it's practically, in Australia. Anyway, thank you to everybody who's fed back.
Thank yous.
Next time we shall be covering the episode. Let's see if I've written it down. No, I haven't.
Covering episode.
So yes, having dug the box set out, we're covering Happy Birthday Buck. Ooh. Ooh, that could go badly wrong, couldn't it?
That's going to be fun.
Who knows?
There'll be singing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow at some point. There'll be cake. There'll probably be a surprise party.
Oh, no, that old trope. Oh, I hope not. Anyway, we'll be recording only slightly earlier for that one. It's Wednesday the 22nd, I want to say. Yes, Wednesday the 22nd of September. But yes, we shall see if the quality takes an upturn again. It's not massively likely.
Not really, no.
No, certainly not with that title, anyway.
No.
Until then, cheery bye.
Bye.
Don't sing if you want to live long. They have no use for your song. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead and out of this world.
The voiceover for Borg Rogers was provided by Michael David Sims from Earth2.net.
The Buck Rogers theme was played by Drew Barker. All other music is used for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
The artwork for this podcast was created by Andy Palastides.
To contact us, send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Contact us via Twitter at rev_org or Borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Visit our website at galactica.libsyn.com.
Or view images relating to our cast on our Tumblr site, borgcast.tumblr.com.
You can join our Facebook page. And there's also a Spotify playlist with all our play-out tunes on it.
Don't ever talk with your eyes. Be sure that you compromise. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead and out of this world. Hear the unloved weeping like rain. Guard your sleep from the sound of their pain. Long gone, long gone, long gone, long gone and out of this world.
Shut it down!
Be cool, Big Daddy.